used it on 84% of the materials, all within her first weeks on the job. A sworn testimony, name blacked out, but identified only as, quote, Friday revealed Pam Bondi's crisis 2.5 million files. That's no mistake. A career DOJ employee with direct knowledge of document handling procedures. 2.5 million. A federal court filing on Wednesday confirmed it. This person claims they raised red flags on the classification to a supervisor in March 2025 and were told to drop it. The Attorney General's office has stalled a discovery request for 11 months. They tried again in June, were moved to another division, and filed a formal complaint in September that was buried. They obstructed, delayed, and misdirected. Now the reason is clear. Finally, they went to the congressional committee directly this past January. Those records hold communications with Trump family members about business matters. That's the origin of this whole investigation. Internal notes and financial transactions flagged by investigators in 2024. This wasn't a fishing expedition, it was a whistleblower. And this is the part that counts. I've been dissecting the court filing since its release. The testimony says, I was directly told that certain documents could not be. It's 847 pages with exhibits A through M, shared because their contents would be, quote, embarrassing to the family. What I discovered isn't just a bureaucratic delay, it's something much bigger. Not a national security risk, not a threat to executive function, simply embarrassing. Here's the angle the headlines are missing. First, some background. So how did Judge Mitchell address that bombshell allegation? Pam Bondi is the current U.S. Attorney General, appointed in January 2025, a former Florida AG. She ordered the Department of Justice to explain, in writing, if this classification was. She has deep ties to the Trump family stretching back a decade, created to avoid embarrassment, not to protect legitimate privileged information. The conflict started when a congressional committee made a formal discovery request 14 months ago. Their answer is due on Monday. This was strategic, not reactive. They asked for records between DOJ staff and Trump Organization businesses. You can tell by the architecture of her order, she's not denying their privilege claim. This is a routine procedure that occurs frequently. The silence was not. She's demanding they justify it, and this is where the plot thickens. Nearly a full year of no response. Here's a quick timeline. Last January, the request was filed. Don't look away. What I'm about to show you will change your perspective. Leave a comment with your prediction. In April, the DOJ confirmed receipt, claiming they were assessing its scope. What do you believe Monday's official response will contain? By September, still assessing. In December, the committee moved to compel a response. Then keep watching to see if you were right. So what are the experts saying? This month, a federal judge unsealed the department's justification. Former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, an Obama appointee with 27 years at the DOJ. This is the source of the 2.5 million file figure. The DOJ didn't deny having the documents. She states that inventing classification levels outside of the rules is extremely unusual. Their explanation was far more troubling. I've never seen it done this way. Simply put, this is not standard procedure. They claim the files were under review for executive privilege and ongoing classification. An official with nearly 3 decades of experience says she has never seen the DOJ invent a secrecy level. In other words, we have them, and you can't see them. Here's another Harry Littman, a former U.S. attorney, now a law professor at UCLA. But the judge threw them a curveball, ordering a privilege log. He says the log itself suggests they're shielding a business, not the executive branch. It's a detailed list of every single document withheld, and the reason that log is public. That is a serious issue. The descriptions of the hidden files reveal their true purpose. The story unfolds when you read the document descriptions. That's the context. And that purpose seems commercial, not governmental. Now for the proof. The first document was filed Wednesday, March 19th. Now this is where it gets interesting. Even Jonathan Turley. I turn to page 214. A law professor at George Washington University who often defends executive power. It describes, and I'm quoting directly, concedes that the whistleblower's embarrassment allegation demands a direct answer. Communications about financial moves between Trump subsidiary accounts and DOJ-linked consulting firms from November 2024 to March 2025. If correct, the entire privilege argument is demolished. That isn't my interpretation. It's from the filing. You should listen when both parties say something needs answers. So what does that mean? Michael Brumwich, the former DOJ Inspector General, commented yesterday. The DOJ knew about money changing hands between Trump companies and their own consultants. Protections for whistleblowers are designed for exactly this scenario. Both during and after the presidential transition, staff who witness misconduct require a channel to report it. But page 341 stopped me cold. A different section contains a category, and this case is crucial, labeled Privileged Family Member Correspondence. Andrew Weissman, former FBI General Counsel, one of Mueller's prosecutors. That section alone contains 47,000 documents, 2.5 million files, 84% using a fake classification. That's an obstruction, not privilege. It's about shielding specific individuals from scrutiny. Agreement from those who have actually handled these cases. I reviewed this 3 times. A clear pattern emerged. No one can find any legal justification for the EPS designation. Correspondence with the Trump Organization was marked privileged. Over 180,000 files. Withholding this much from a congressional request is unheard of. Records related to Ivanka Trump's consulting firm were put under a national security review. The whistleblower's embarrassment claim completely changes the situation. Jared Kushner's Middle East investment letters are protected by an ongoing investigation claim. That is the professional consensus. Eric Trump's property deals were hidden under third-party privacy concerns. Not political players or pundits, but those who file these motions, who defend these very privileges. Every record is documented, withheld, and signed off under Bondi's authority. Now for what no one is reporting. Page 673, Exhibit K. Even the prosecutors of these cases are raising red flags now. A memo surfaced dated February 14th, 2025, just 3 weeks into Bondi's term. It doesn't imply a crime, nor impeachment, nor a resignation. The subject revised document retention protocol and special handling procedures. It suggests the reasoning is weak. Now a judge demands a better explanation. It creates a new security tier, not top secret. A valuable breakdown, show support. Not confidential, but a new category called EPS Executive Protection Sensitive. Hours were spent compiling this, reading each page and checking all exhibits. I'd never seen that label. A quick search confirmed it's not in any standard DOJ guidelines. If this was helpful, click like. It's fast and shows the algorithm this is important. They invented it. And what does this invented category protect? More is coming. Why does this affect you? Let's be direct. The privilege log reveals the answer. The impact on you is real. Taxpayers. Listen up. Your money funds the DOJ's fight against this request. It shields communications with family of top officials if disclosure might harm their ongoing business deals. You are paying for it. Think about what that means. Filings suggest the DOJ has spent $4.3 million in fees on this case since last April. Ongoing business deals? This isn't a matter of national security. $4 million to keep files from Congress. From your pocket, it's about 12 cents a taxpayer. This is a commercial interest. It seems small, but apply that cost to every similar battle in every department. The log shows 2.1 million of the 2.5 million documents are now classified as EPS. The costs add up quickly. That accounts for 84% of everything being concealed. Some are now using FOIA to get detailed breakdowns of the spending. I examined Exhibit L, which contained internal DOJ emails on this new rule. If the $4.3 million figure is accurate, pressure to explain it will mount. In one email, a career DOJ attorney, with their name redacted, wrote to a supervisor. This isn't advice, just an observation. A new precedent is being set. This classification lacks any legal basis. I urge consultation with OLC before we proceed. The rules for your next FOIA request could be entirely different. The supervisor's reply came back. If an agency can create a new classification to shield, quote, embarrassing material, the order is from the AG's office, implemented as written. What prevents its use against your query? Here's a quick case. That exchange was on February 18th, 2025, 4 days post-memo. A lawyer voiced concern and was immediately shut down. Say you're a journalist investigating federal deals. The political storm from this is already brewing. You request communications between an agency and a firm. The agency creates a new sensitive business relationship category. House Oversight has already served 3 more subpoenas this week alone. You're denied. I'm not being dramatic. The Senate Judiciary Committee initiated a preliminary probe yesterday. Precedent functions just like that. If one agency succeeds, others will copy it. The Inspector General's office states they are, quote, aware of the filing. Catherine Powell, a former administrative law lawyer, framed it this way, but offered no further comment within 72 hours of the unsealing. Each new type of privilege erodes the principle of transparency. And here is the number that truly matters: the money transfers hinted at in those secret documents. This impacts anyone seeking information from the government, merely from the descriptions in the privilege log, not the files themselves. 147 current FOIA requests cite this case with concern. Just from the descriptions, the total value is $1.7 billion. That's the secret they are keeping. Journalists, academics, and activists are all observing, and that's from the first set of files. I'm still investigating. If you value this work, subscribe. Open government groups have already submitted amicus briefs. I'm analyzing the remaining exhibits this week. New filings are expected on Monday, backing the committee, arguing it impacts all future oversight. The situation is evolving rapidly. Okay, but in fairness, we must consider their side. When you connect the dots, this isn't about executive branch confidentiality. Their defense has a few valid points. DOJ supporters call this routine executive privilege protection. If Bondi's gambit works, it becomes the new playbook for every future attorney general. They say an attorney general shielding communications with the president's family isn't strange. Party affiliation won't matter. Once a weapon is created, it will be fired. And to be honest, some of their reasoning is sound. Anyone who believes in government accountability has a stake in this fight. Their case begins with the fact that every administration has used executive privilege. This isn't fear-mongering. It's what legal experts are warning. So what's the response? Both Obama and Bush used it. This practice is not new. FOIA filers are already challenging these fabricated secrecy labels in court. Second, the Trump family also operates as private citizens. Hill staffers are building a case for contempt by logging every single delay. They are entitled to privacy. Not every business talk a president's relative has should be a public document. Experts are being asked how to fight back against these baseless privilege assertions. Third, the 2.5 million figure is deceptive. It's inflated by duplicates, email threads, and attachments. Being informed is key. And that $1.7 billion in those files, it didn't materialize out of thin air. The volume of unique records is likely much lower. The money was funneled through banks, property, and investment funds. Deputy Attorney General Marcus Webb presented it this way in a statement Thursday. If you have real estate or a retirement fund, this filing represents an appropriate defense of deliberative processes and lawful assertions of privilege. Or bank with a major firm. Your money likely crossed paths with these deals. I don't fully accept that, but their defense isn't baseless. This is not about personal blame. It's about a deeply connected system. They are leaning on a broad Supreme Court precedent for executive privilege. When $1.7 billion shifts hands without oversight. The case of Nixon versus the United States imposed limits but did not end the privilege. The inability to follow the paper trail reveals a systemic failure. Multiple federal courts have also defended family privacy in prior discovery conflicts. Bondi's response: she poured gasoline on the fire. Congress's demand could certainly be seen as an overreach. Picture it: Thursday morning's press conference at the DOJ. Demanding every communication is a classic fishing expedition. She dismissed the legal filing as a partisan ploy to harass her administration. Even Jack Quinn, former Clinton counsel, concedes that asserting privilege over family talks isn't inherently invalid. Quoting her, "We will follow lawful orders while defending executive branch prerogatives." The real issues are scope and intent. The reaction was swift. A committee chair fired back within 2 hours. Look, my goal isn't to pick a side. For those who believe Bondi is defending valid interests, his message, if the order is lawful, turn over the files. By evening, #Bondi Files was trending. The law does offer some basis for their argument. The White House claimed Congress was weaponizing its oversight powers. Executive privilege serves a genuine purpose. Senator Williams hit back even harder. For those who see obstruction, they point to the fabricated classification tier. She just labeled a federal court order a partisan attack. The timing and the sheer scope. Yes, it appears suspect. Both views have supporting facts. That is not how our system functions. Then came Thursday night's bombshell. That is precisely what makes this so tangled. One thing I hear from administration supporters, an unnamed DOJ source leaked that Bondi herself is that the committee seeking these records is politically motivated, screening the very documents the court has ordered to be released. Their aim is to humiliate the president's family, not perform real oversight. The AG, whose conflict of interest is central to the case, is personally deciding what to reveal. And you know what? There's likely some truth in that claim. It's unbelievable. Ethics watchdogs instantly raised red flags. Senator Williams, the oversight chair, has been very open about his desire to uncover wrongdoing. A former DOJ inspector general called it completely backward. He said as much on national television, but does that justify withholding the records? If a conflict exists, as critics allege, she must be firewalled from this decision. That's a different debate. And the DOJ's perspective isn't irrational, but she's at the very heart of it. This morning, a DOJ spokesperson tried to retract the claim. Why surrender millions of files to people whose minds are already made up? Saying it was misconstrued, but it was too late. The fire is spreading, not shrinking. Former AG Bill Barr, who is no friend to Trump investigations, had an interesting take on this. Lingering questions. First, what is inside those 2.1 million classified files? Asserting privilege requires good faith. The question becomes if this action meets that standard. The logs give us categories, not specifics. We know money was moved. Note that he never said it did. We know family members were corresponding. The substance remains a mystery. Nor did he say it didn't. He just posed the question. That is the most honest approach here. Second, why did the whistleblower delay so long before alerting Congress? I can tell you the records show Bondi's office invented a security category without any legal basis. They voiced concerns internally back in March 2025, a 10-month gap before going public. Now for the hard part. So what happened in those 10 months? We'll know soon. These are facts. Their interpretation is the battle, and this situation has a history. The DOJ's response to Judge Mitchell is due Monday, March 24th. This is a critical deadline. Here's the context. Back in 2013, Bondi was Florida's Attorney General. Will the DOJ defend this classification or simply abandon it? Her office weighed joining a lawsuit against Trump University. And then things changed. A congressional hearing is set for Wednesday, March 26. Subpoenas for DOJ officials are out. A Trump Foundation sent $25,000 to a PAC backing Bondi's re-election. Whether they will appear is uncertain. The IG's office has reportedly begun its own probe. 4 days on, her office announced its decision not to join the suit. No timeline is public. Monday, March 24th is key. She called the timing a coincidence. Her critics saw something else. If the DOJ fails to justify this secrecy classification, the judge could force their hand. No one was ever charged, but a precedent was set. Let's jump to 2019. That would spark an appeal, rocketing this case toward the Supreme Court. Or the DOJ folds and reveals everything. We should have answers by Monday night. Bondi becomes part of Trump's impeachment defense. Then by 2024, she's nominated for AG. Make sure you're subscribed. Monday's court filing could change the entire game. During her confirmation, Senator Klobuchar asked her directly, "The second it's released, I will be dissecting it. You are going to want that analysis. Will you step aside on cases that involve the Trump family? So subscribe and enable notifications." This story is developing rapidly. Bondi's response: "I will follow guidance from the Office of Professional Responsibility. Here's the current situation. 2.5 million documents are being kept hidden under a contested classification. Not a confirmation or a denial. Someone even noted on record during the hearing. A federal judge has demanded the DOJ provide a rationale for its EPS category by Monday. Her past creates valid concerns regarding her independence. A whistleblower's claim that this is to avoid embarrassment is now officially part of the record. This demands a definitive response. A congressional hearing is slated for Wednesday. The Attorney General is directly involved, ignoring conflict concerns. That came from Republican Senator Murkowski, not a Democrat. The Inspector General is aware, but won't confirm if a formal probe is underway. So what was the result? Confirmation. 51-49, the pattern of financial link in Florida. On Monday, March 24th, the DOJ's response to Judge Mitchell is due by close of business. An investigation ceased. Fealty was shown through the impeachment defense. On Wednesday, March 26th, the House Oversight Committee will hold a hearing at 10 a.m. Confirmation with no firm commitment to recuse. That's Eastern Time. On Friday, March 28th, the DOJ must identify documents for immediate release. A new security system was created just weeks into her term. The next court conference is April 7th, with a possible ruling on privilege. It's unknown if the White House will directly assert executive privilege. Every concern was noted, then brushed aside, right up until Wednesday. To this point, the DOJ has been making that claim for the executive branch. Now, a federal judge has revealed what the DOJ struggled to keep secret. A personal assertion of privilege from the president would dramatically alter the legal landscape. And suddenly, this question is no longer hypothetical. You can see the trajectory, can't you? It's also an open question if more whistleblowers are preparing to come forward. If you're following, hit like. It's more important than you know. The initial filing cited discussions with several other concerned officials, using the plural. The algorithm sees your engagement and shows more people this breakdown. The clock is ticking. Pressure mounts with each day that goes by. Tap like if this makes sense. Wednesday, March 19th, 4:47 p.m. Allies in Congress are growing impatient. Legal arguments are wearing thin as media scrutiny grows. Eastern. This is what happened. Judge Sandra Mitchell, from the Circuit Federal Court. This is the situation. Pam Bondi is defending a classification system no one has ever heard of. Handed down her ruling on the motion to compel. She's holding back 2.5 million documents and facing a Monday deadline she never saw coming. The government was using a privilege claim over 2.5 million documents with, on the surface, it seems like a standard privilege fight. But a whistleblower alleges the goal was to prevent embarrassment, not for national security. A classification that had no legal basis. The court demanded an answer. A federal judge is now requiring a written justification, refusing to accept vague claims. The room's reaction was instantaneous. And 84% of these documents are under a classification Bondi herself invented. What came next? DOJ was forced to file a privilege log in 24 hours. I'll be scrutinizing Monday's filing. It's the first real test of their legal arguments. They fought that for months. A congressional committee got the log Thursday morning. Either the DOJ presents a sound legal foundation for the EPS category, or they fail to. 3 different news outlets then filed FOIA requests. If they fail, this intensifies appeals, contempt hearings, and possibly more. This is far from over, for the memo behind the classification by that night. Subscribe to understand the full story, not just the sound bites. 67 hours, that's how fast. But everyone missed the real story. When those documents are released, if they are, I will analyze their contents, just as I did today. While the focus was on the judge's decision, something else emerged. Exhibit M. I will go page by page, exhibit by exhibit. That is how we uncover the reality of the situation. Most people never read that far. It contained a whistleblower's statement. No spin, no talking points, just what the legal documents reveal.